Today, we will use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events. According to the latest news from the BBC, on December 10th, rare tornadoes hit the three counties of Crail, Galway, and Mayo on the western coast of Ireland, causing serious damage and chaos. The tornado was caused by Storm Fergus Falls, which brought strong winds, huge waves, and high tides to the west of Ireland. Met Éireann has issued orange and yellow storm warnings to remind people to take precautions. According to eyewitnesses and media reports, a tornado suddenly appeared in the village of Leitrim in Clare County at noon that day, uprooting trees, knocking down walls, and damaging cars and boats. Families were forced to evacuate their homes, as many as 20 roofs were torn off in villages, boats were overturned at docks, and traces of damage from downed trees and flying debris could be seen across the town. The tornado moved along the canal, flattening a row of trees and then ripping the roof off a building. A witness said his Jeep was hit by flying debris as he was driving but was fortunately uninjured. Emergency services rushed to the scene to clear roads and rescue injured people. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing, and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. The tornado then moved towards counties Galway and Mayo, causing more damage along the way. Windows were smashed in some shops and homes in Galway, and power poles were blown down, causing power outages in some areas. Some farms and pastures in County Mayo were also affected, with some livestock injured and crops destroyed. Local governments and volunteers are assisting those affected by the disaster, providing food, water, and shelter. Meteorologist Michelle Dillon said the tornado was caused by a strong low-pressure system formed on the west coast by Storm Fergus Falls. He said the phenomenon was very rare in Ireland but not impossible. He also said that as Storm Fergus Falls moves eastward across the country, the storm surge will lead to high seas, and combined with the storm, parts of the west coast may experience coastal flooding and ocean overflow, especially at high tides. He advised the public to avoid going near the coast, stay away from dangerous areas, and pay close attention to the latest news from the Meteorological Bureau. A yellow wind warning will be issued in 19 counties in Ireland to remind people to be aware of the impact of strong winds. The Irish government and civil organizations are making every effort to respond to this rare natural disaster and hope to resume normal life as soon as possible. A tornado is a powerful and dangerous cyclone formed by rapidly rotating air currents that create an upright, hollow tube shape. Tornadoes vary in size, but are generally shaped like a funnel with a large top and a small bottom. The top of the funnel is connected with cumulonimbus clouds, and the lower part is usually in contact with the ground and is often surrounded by dust or debris. The formation principle of tornadoes is related to low air pressure and rotating wind direction. Tornadoes often occur in unstable air masses with high temperature and humidity. The air there is very disturbed, and the temperature difference between the upper and lower parts is quite different. When the temperature on the ground is about 30 degrees Celsius, the temperature has dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius at an altitude of 8,000 meters. This temperature difference causes the cold air to drop sharply, the hot air to rise rapidly, and the upper and lower air convection speeds are too fast, thus forming many small vortices. When these small vortices gradually expand, coupled with violent vibrations, they can easily form large vortices and become wind damage that attacks the ground or the ocean. Tornadoes are the product of thunderstorms in clouds. Specifically, a tornado is a form in which a small part of the huge energy of a thunderstorm is concentrated and released in a small area. The formation of tornadoes can generally be divided into 4 stages. First, atmospheric instability creates strong updrafts, which are further intensified due to the influence of maximum passing airflow in the jet stream. Then, due to the interaction with the wind that has both speed and direction in the vertical direction, that is, shear, the updraft begins to rotate in the middle of the troposphere, forming a mesoscale cyclone. Subsequently, the mesoscale cyclone itself thins and intensifies as it develops toward the surface and extends upward. At the same time, a small area of enhanced convergence, that is, a nascent tornado, is formed inside the cyclone, and the same process that produces the cyclone forms the core of the tornado. Most importantly, the rotation in a tornado's core is different from that in a cyclone, and is strong enough to allow the tornado to continue spreading to the surface. When the developed vortex reaches the surface height, the surface air pressure drops rapidly and the surface wind rises rapidly, forming a tornado. Historically, there have been very serious tornado events that were shocking. On March 18, 1925, a disaster known as the Tri-State Tornado occurred in the American Midwest, which was the deadliest single tornado event on record. The tornado started in southeastern Missouri, passed through central Illinois, and finally reached southwestern Indiana, killing 695 people, injuring 2,027 people, and destroying more than 15,000 buildings. The path length of this tornado reached 352 kilometers, the maximum width reached 1.6 kilometers, and the maximum wind speed reached 500 kilometers per hour. It was rated as EF5. On April 3 to 4, 1974, a series of tornadoes known as the Super Outbreak occurred in the United States and Canada, the largest tornado outbreak on record. This outbreak produced a total of 148 tornadoes, 23 of which reached EF4 and 6 of which reached EF5, covering 13 states and Ontario. The outbreak killed 315 people, injured 5,484 people, and caused more than $3 billion in property damage. On April 26, 1989, a disaster known as the Dhaka tornado occurred in Bangladesh, one of the deadliest single tornado events on record. The tornado started from the outskirts of Dhaka and moved in the northeast direction, passing through Maniganj, Saville, Dhaka and other places, killing 1,300 people, injuring 12,000 people, and leaving 80,000 people homeless. The path length of this tornado reached 80 kilometers, the maximum width reached 1.5 kilometers, and the maximum wind speed reached 240 kilometers per hour. It was rated F3. On May 3, 1999, a disaster known as the Oklahoma City tornado occurred in Oklahoma, USA. This was one of the most powerful single tornado events on record. The tornado started in Chickasha, passed through Moore, Del City, Midwest City, Oklahoma City, and other places, and finally reached Stroud City, killing 36 people, injuring 583 people, and injuring 10 people. Billions of dollars in property damage. The path length of this tornado reached 122 kilometers, the maximum width reached 1.9 kilometers, and the maximum wind speed reached 512 kilometers per hour. It was rated as EF5. From April 25 to 28, 2011, a disaster known as the 2011 American tornado outbreak occurred in the southern United States. This was one of the largest tornado outbreaks on record. This outbreak produced a total of 358 tornadoes, 15 of which reached EF4 and 4 of which reached EF5, covering 21 states. The outbreak killed 324 people, injured 2,453 people, and caused more than $11 billion in property damage. When a tornado hits, it will have a serious impact on the building. The degree of damage depends on the direction and size of the force exerted by the tornado on the building. The primary factor is wind pressure, which is the positive or negative pressure a tornado exerts on building surfaces, depending on wind speed, direction, and the shape of the building. Wind pressure can cause deformation, cracking, or collapse of buildings, especially for thin-walled structures, glass curtain walls, and other buildings that are susceptible to wind pressure. Second is wind suction, which is the negative pressure exerted by the tornado on the interior of the building, which depends on wind speed, wind direction, and the ceiling of the building. Wind suction can cause the roof, windows, or gates of a building to be sucked away, or the entire building to be sucked toward the center of the tornado, especially for buildings with light weight and weak structures. More important is the wind load, which is the impact force exerted by the tornado on the flying objects carried by the building, which depends on the quality, speed, and shape of the flying objects. Wind load can cause the building to penetrate, cut, or smash, especially for buildings with brittle materials, fragile items, and other buildings that are not resistant to impact. Tornadoes have different effects on different types of buildings. Generally speaking, the following types of buildings are more likely to be destroyed by tornadoes. The first is wooden structure buildings, which refer to buildings with wood as the main material. They have light weight, weak structure, and poor wind resistance. Wooden structures are easily damaged by tornado wind pressure, wind suction, and wind loads, and may even be blown away or torn apart as a whole. The second is brick concrete structure buildings, which refer to buildings with bricks and concrete as the main materials. They have heavier weight, stronger structures, and better wind resistance. However, brick concrete structures are also easily damaged by tornado wind loads because bricks and concrete are both brittle materials and not resistant to impact. Moreover, the connecting parts of brick concrete structures are easily damaged by the wind pressure or wind suction of tornadoes, leading to partial or complete collapse of the building. What cannot be ignored is steel structure buildings, which refer to buildings with steel as the main material. They have heavier weight, more stable structures, and stronger wind resistance. Steel structures are more resistant to tornado damage than other types of buildings, but they are not completely safe. Steel structures may also be damaged by tornado wind loads because although steel has good ductility, it also has certain plasticity limits. Moreover, the exterior decoration or attachments of steel structure buildings are also easily damaged by the wind pressure or wind suction of tornadoes, resulting in damage to the appearance or functionality of the building. Even more architectural is the reinforced concrete structure building, which refers to buildings with steel bars and concrete as the main materials. They have heavier weight, more complex structures, and higher wind resistance. Reinforced concrete structures are currently the most common building type. Their design generally takes into account the effects of wind loads. Therefore, they are more resistant to tornado damage than other types of buildings, but they are not absolutely safe. Reinforced concrete structures may also be damaged by tornado wind loads because concrete is also a brittle material and is not impact resistant. Moreover, the connecting parts of reinforced concrete structures are easily damaged by the wind pressure or wind suction of tornadoes, leading to partial or complete collapse of the building. Before a tornado occurs, There are actually some measures that can be taken to reduce the probability of a tornado or reduce the destructive power of a tornado. First of all, it is to establish and improve the tornado monitoring, forecasting, early warning and emergency response system, improve the ability of early detection and timely notification of tornadoes, and improve the public's prevention awareness and response capabilities. Secondly, we should strengthen the scientific research on tornadoes, explore the formation mechanism, development rules, influencing factors and prediction methods of tornadoes, and improve the accuracy and timeliness of tornado forecasts. More importantly, it is necessary to strengthen the risk assessment and zoning of tornadoes, analyze the frequency, intensity, path, and scope of influence of tornadoes, determine the high-risk and low-risk areas of tornadoes, and formulate corresponding preventive measures and emergency plans. What cannot be ignored is the need to strengthen engineering protection against tornadoes, improve the wind resistance and safety of buildings, use solid structural materials and reasonable structural forms, set up shelters such as basements or semi-basements, and reinforce doors, windows, and roofs that are susceptible to tornadoes. Protect damaged parts from being blown away or damaged by tornadoes. It is worth mentioning that we need to strengthen social protection against tornadoes, improve the public's prevention knowledge and skills, popularize the basic characteristics, hazards, early warning signals and avoidance methods of tornadoes, establish effective information dissemination and education and publicity mechanisms, and improve the public's self-rescue. Mutual rescue ability. There are some steps that should be taken immediately during or after a tornado to reduce tornado damage or return to normal life. First of all, pay attention to the tornado forecast and warning information, and take appropriate preventive measures in a timely manner according to the warning level and suggestions, such as closing doors and windows, cutting off the power supply, packing up flyable items, etc., and avoiding outdoor activities or driving vehicles. Secondly, if you are indoors, you should stay away from doors, windows, and surrounding walls, and hide in a wall or small room opposite the direction of the tornado. The basement or semi-basement is the safest place to avoid a tornado. If these facilities are available, you should take shelter immediately. Go in. More importantly, if you are outdoors, you should find a nearby low-lying place to lie down on the ground, but stay away from big trees, telephone poles, billboards, walls, etc. to avoid being hit, crushed, or electrocuted. If you are in a car, you should get out of the car immediately and take shelter in a low-lying area. Never drive to avoid it, and do not take shelter in a car, because cars have almost no defense against tornadoes. At the same time, if you are hit by a tornado, you should protect your head and neck to avoid being hit or scratched by flying objects, and try not to panic or scream to avoid inhaling too much dust or water vapor. If you are injured, you should stop bleeding, disinfect, and bandage in time. If you have difficulty breathing, you should seek medical assistance in time. What cannot be ignored is that if a tornado passes, you should pay attention to safety inspections to avoid secondary injuries, such as electric shock, fire, explosion, etc. If someone is trapped, call the police or ask for help in time. Do not enter the dangerous area without authorization to avoid making rescue more difficult. If someone is missing, they should contact relatives and friends in time, or register with the relevant departments for timely search. It is worth mentioning that if a tornado causes property damage, it should be reported to the insurance company or relevant departments in a timely manner, and relevant certificates and information should be provided in order to obtain timely compensation or subsidies. If the tornado has caused psychological trauma, you should seek professional psychological consultation or treatment in time to avoid affecting normal life and work. At present, in order to prevent tornado attacks, various countries have launched some defensive black technology equipment. First, blast the tornado by firing explosive missiles to disrupt the airflow. This is a method of using military means to intervene in a tornado. The purpose is to use the shock wave and heat generated by the explosion to destroy the rotating structure of the tornado, thereby weakening or eliminating the destructive power of the tornado. However, there are many problems with this method, such as the trajectory of tornadoes is difficult to predict. Launching missiles may cause additional casualties, and the effect of explosions is difficult to guarantee. Secondly, there is the application of satellite microwave intervention. This is a method of using space technology to intervene in tornadoes. The purpose is to heat the storm by firing high-power microwaves at the tornado, cut off the energy that forms the tornado, and prevent the formation of funnel clouds. This is a theoretical solution proposed by an American physicist, but its feasibility and safety have not been verified, and the cost is huge, which may cause environmental and political controversy. At the same time, humans are developing methods to use artificial weather modification technology to intervene in tornadoes. The purpose is to promote the release of water vapor in the clouds by dropping substances containing condensation nuclei, such as dry ice or silver iodide, into the source of tornadoes, that is, strong convective clouds. Condensation releases atmospheric energy in advance, thereby weakening or preventing the formation of tornadoes. This method can reduce the probability of tornadoes to a certain extent, but it may also cause other adverse consequences, such as excessive rainfall leading to floods, or changing the path of tornadoes causing greater losses. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events.